that is also prescribed, that if you do not remit that 3% within 30 days, there's an additional penalty of another 3%. So that in any 1 month, you are in danger of having to pay 6%, which can actually be recovered by court action. Secondly, and this bears repetition, it must be borne in mind that as national government is endeavoring to do all this, Schedule 4, Clause 18, and Schedule Part 1 and Part 2 makes it very clear that no matter how well-intentioned the government may be, housing still remains a county function, function. And the only thing given to national government is the policy. This bill is not prescribing policy, it's prescribing the way of doing it. That will remain unconstitutional no matter how you couch it. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, in terms of counties, this bill is very strange. It comes under the hand of the Honorable Kimani Ichungwa, and it purports in the purposes that it has nothing to do with counties. And yet, first of all, in the very face of the bill, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the bill, Clause 10(2)(c), Clause 12(3)(b)(1), both of them actually expressly mention the county. Besides, in their rendering of explanation, we have been told that actually they are getting land that is right now held by the counties. You cannot get land from the counties and say the bill does not concern counties, by definition and by law. It means, by whatever formulation, the bill must also involve the Senate, and it must also involve discussion with the county governments. Mr. Speaker, the question of land is not clear. This bill proceeds as if these units will be built in the air. There is no attempt to talk about land acquisition at all. In fact, more importantly, under the Constitution, whether it's land held on behalf of the county or on behalf of the national government, it is only the National Land Commission that is authorized to allocate that land. The bill does not even recognize the National Land Commission, and I've seen the submission by the commission itself. It was persuading the committee to have provisions on the process of land acquisition. Otherwise, you'll end up putting public money in land that is not even owned by the public. Mr. Speaker, this bill, in a very serious manner, makes several aspects that are very unclear. First, in terms of ownership. It does not make it clear whether we are talking of affordable ownership of houses or affordable rental of houses. It is totally confused. And if you look at Section 10 and 37 as read together, it's only talking about then paying a percentage of whatever, 10% actually, of whatever is deemed to be the worth of the unit. It doesn't say whether it's 10% represent the purchase price or the rental price. This bill again, Mr. Speaker, in trying to talk of administration, it becomes very confusing. In Section 11, the money is supposed to be divided 3 ways. Part of it is divided to the National Housing Corporation, another part to the slum upgrading program, and the third part to the State Department responsible for housing in Section 11. It then seeks to assume later in the bill that it is only the State Department and the board that is created that is administering the fund. The truth is, once you allocate land to the National Housing Corporation, to the Slum Upgrading Fund, you have no means under the bill of then superintending it. It means that only 1/3 of the money allocated under this bill will be superintended by the board that is created. Mr. Speaker, in all fairness, the bill then does something very, very dangerous in Section 2A. And Mr. Speaker, we all know that the collector of taxes is the Kenya Revenue Authority. But this Section 2A then authorizes any other person appointed by the Cabinet Secretary for the time being responsible for National Treasury for the purposes of collection of funds under this Act. We are enabling an entity who is not even said to be a government entity to collect government taxes. We must be the only country that can do such a thing. And beside, you know that later on, 2% of the monies allocated are then allowed to be retained by this actor. Who is this person that we are giving the possibility of collecting monies that belong to Kenyans under this fund? Mr. Speaker, I wish to submit that however well-intentioned, this bill still requires a lot of proper analysis and engagement, not at the level of drafting, but at the idea level. It is still premature, it has not been well cooked, it is being rushed, it will end up being in problems. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
I'll give Kimani, then we can call the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr.
You are giving the microphone to a member I have not called out.
Thank you.
Yes, Kimani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We appreciate the debate that you've held this afternoon and the views held by, among others, the Honorable Otiende Omolo. And tomorrow, during the Committee of the Whole House, the Joint Committees of Finance and National Planning and that of Housing, Public Works and Urban Development will be putting across several amendments so that we align the fears that members of this Honorable House has raised. But a few of those things that I would like to reply to is, one, the issue or the question of the ownership of land and the transfer of these houses, or where these houses are built on public land and how they are transferred from public land to private land. One of the amendments we'll be moving tomorrow is an amendment to the Lands Act, is a provision that all the transfer of land from public to private will have to follow the Land Act, Honorable Speaker. The issue about penalties in terms of the times when these levies are levied to the relevant authority, we will also be promoting an amendment so that they align with the Tax Procedures Act, so that the fines and the penalties that shall accrue as a result of late disbursement of these funds will follow the rest of the taxes as proposed by the as enshrined in the Tax Procedures Act. Honorable Speaker, one of the key amendments that we've done is we've created the fund. And now this fund, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and them trying to implement these affordable housing programs, the bill proposes to use existing structures of governance, including county governments, including the National Housing Corporation, including the State Department in charge of housing, and other private entities that could be involved in the issue of affordable housing. So the monies are collected as a levy by KRA, they're taken into the fund, and then it is a fund that disburses these monies to the respective agencies. The agencies will implement the housing programs, and once the houses are complete, they are going to be transferred to the fund. And now it is now the fund that is going to distribute these houses to Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. The issue about whether to buy or rent has also been addressed in the amendment that will be moving tomorrow, that now provide that this affordable housing will be available for whether you want to buy or rent, Honorable Speaker. The issue of the 10% deposit, again proposed as a bill, is one of the things that we propose to delete tomorrow during the Committee of the Whole House, because we listened to Kenyans and they said that 10% proposed deposit is too punitive and might not be affordable to the majority of hustlers that want to get involved in this program, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, there was a fear that these houses will be taken by the rich at the expense of the people that should benefit from this affordable housing. And therefore, we'll also be proposing to have one ID, one KRA PIN, one house, so that we do not have people taking advantage of this particular program and going to invest in them at the expense of the hustlers that are benefiting from this program, Honorable Speaker. We have also clearly defined what an affordable house, and most importantly, Honorable Speaker, one of the things that came out of the public hearings is a need for institutional housing. We have a majority of the civil servants who are majority of the contributors to this kitty, like the police, like the teachers, like KDF, like lecturers, like even student accommodation, that now we are proposing to include an additional amendment to have affordable housing, including institutional housing, so that our students, for example, Honorable Speaker, the Technical University of Nairobi has a population of almost 20,000 students, but the number of hostels they have as an institution is less than 500. And this means that we have had mushrooming of slums around universities. If you go to Kenyatta University, the students there live in KM. If you go to the University of Nairobi, there is a slum around all our institutions of higher learning. And therefore, the bill will propose to have a particular provision and a particular percentage going to institutional housing, especially targeting our civil servants, our teachers, our police officers, and most importantly, our students, so that the students can live near where they go to school and they can have a conducive place to learn and to acquire knowledge without having to go through slums, to be marked at night when going home, and the risk of them being, their hostels being, their rental houses being locked, and them even staying out of school, Honorable Speaker. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support this bill, and again, tomorrow during the Committee of the Whole, the joint committees will be proposing an array of amendments to safeguard some of the things that our members, especially from the minority side, has raised. I beg to move, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. I now put the question pursuant to the point of order raised by Honorable Chepkonga, that the mover be now called upon to reply. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me in reply to first thank all the members who have contributed. Honorable Speaker, last Thursday when this debate began, just to dissuade that fear by the Honorable Otiende Omolo that this bill is being rushed, we were here up to 7 p.m. and very many members contributed. And I sat here pensively listening to all the contributions by the members. Honorable Speaker, I remember the Honorable Engineer Mwengi, who was asking, how will a person earning 20,000 shillings afford to save to buy a house of 2.5 million shillings? Honorable Speaker, the straight answer is in the bill. I'm certain the Honorable Engineer may not have read the bill. And at clause 2 of the bill on social housing, the bill is quite explicit that the social housing units will be houses for people, targeting people whose monthly income is below 20,000 shillings. The same questions I had the leader of minority asking, how will Mama Mboga, how will a boda rider afford to buy a house? It is these people who are being targeted with the social housing. The Honorable